Well, I mean, an open rebuke can be a loving thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, if
Just
you're
like the hidden love, it means you're not showing it to somebody. You're not rebuking them when they need it.
yeah, if you're
It's like,
watching somebody, destroy themselves and you say nothing because you're like, who am I to get in the way of his happiness? It's like, well, he's ruining his life, so maybe say something about it. Look at what Jesus did. There's an open rebuke there, right? They're out of line. They're accusing him and his disciples, right? And he's saying, "Look, you are literally breaking one of the 10 commandments. Have you heard of them?" And it's an open rebuke. They need to hear it. If he doesn't tell them that, he's not loving them.
Yeah.
But they don't see it that way, right? Because they can't. They refuse to see it that way, so they're offended by it.
Welcome to Biblocus, where the Bible intersects with your life. I'm Timothy.
And I'm Caleb.
And you're listening to Bible Discussions, the forum where we explore biblical topics that are relevant to your life. Today we are continuing our series on the bonus sayings of the wise from Proverbs. And so this is going to be our second saying. And let's go ahead and read that. It's from Proverbs 24, verse 26.
An honest answer is like a kiss on the lips.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. So there's, basically two phrases there, or two things being compared: an honest answer and a kiss on the lips.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest tie-in between those two ideas would be trust. Right?
Okay.
Like if you're giving an honest answer, right, then
you can trust it.
Yeah, you can trust that person. And hopefully, if you're kissing anyone, that's also somebody you can trust.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So there's also this kind of non-intuitive aspect of it that we're going to discuss more later. But since we're supposed to tell the truth, right? We're not supposed to be liars. So that means we have to kiss people we don't like.
Yeah,
that's kind of a weird idea. But when we share truth with people, we're getting intimate with them in a sense. All right. So let's go ahead and look at some other verses that talk about this. First, we wanted to look at 2 Corinthians 13:12.
Yeah, and it's also going to be echoed in several other places by Paul in his letters. But it says, greet one another with a holy kiss.
Yeah.
And again, you find almost that exact wording in 4 or 5 different places in the New Testament.
Romans 16:16, 1 Corinthians 16:20. 1 Thessalonians 5:26. Those are a couple places if you want to go check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really into that. Anyway. But we are supposed to be the people of the truth, like I said a minute ago, and we're supposed to be the people of love, right? Mm-hmm. And, Jesus said that they will know you by your love. And so,
yeah, and Paul thinks that that's a fitting way to greet your brothers in Christ, which, may sound odd to us today. There's been a bit of a cultural change.
Well, long before Paul was writing, though, there's some famous Old Testament passage about kissing. So this is the story of David and Jonathan when they're meeting secretly because Jonathan's father is running after David, trying to kill him.
Yeah,
and so David has to hide, and Jonathan has a boy that's helping him shoot arrows and so on.
Yeah,
and
they're meeting secretly. Yeah.
So they have some signals about how far he shoots the arrow and whatnot, and then he tells the kid, "Okay, go ahead and you can leave." And this is what we find in 1 Samuel 20, verses 41 and 42. After the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times, with his face to the ground. Then they kissed each other and wept together, but David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" Then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town.
Yeah, and this is just to be clear as well about what Jonathan is saying there, that the Lord is a witness between them. What he's referring to, Jonathan had made David swear to show mercy to his family, to Jonathan's descendants, not to wipe out the whole house of Saul, which was common. I mean, when there's a change of power,
Yeah.
you typically you try to get rid of everyone else who could have claimed the throne to make sure. And he
Right.
makes David swear, and it's a sign of Jonathan's faith because he believes in God's anointing of David, right? So he doesn't, even though his dad is the king, he has no ambitions to be king. He doesn't think his brother should be king. He just doesn't want David to wipe out his line.
It's really an unusual story because Saul is causing so much grief for both his son and David,
Mhm.
both of whom want to be loyal to Saul.
Yeah,
But they're both being tormented by Saul because he has this hatred for David because he knows that David's destined to take his throne.
hmm
And that's why they're so upset when they meet because they're best friends, but they haven't been able
yeah.
to
Well,
see each other.
this is pretty much they're saying goodbye, and they know that.
Yeah.
That's also why they're so upset about it.
Mhm.
But and of course, we should point out that there's nothing sensual going on here. I mean, I think to kind of contemporary ears, if you just told them a story, I saw these two guys, they were kissing each other and crying and hugging each other, you'd be like, oh, a couple of fruitcakes, and that's not what's happening. It's a healthy physical male to male affection, which maybe we've lost. Maybe it's something we're even lacking in our society because you just don't see as much of that between male friends, I think, as you used to.
Yeah. Well, when you look at Jesus and the Apostle John,
Mm-hmm.
then you see the same relationship when they're at the Last Supper and John is leaning against Jesus
Yeah.
and leaning back on him. And he asks him, hey, who is going to betray you, and Jesus talks to him about it. There's that intimacy there.
Yeah, and I think you can think of other stories. Jacob and Esau reuniting seems very emotional. Joseph and his brothers. Joseph has to send all the Egyptian servants away so he can cry with them. It's like- and there's a lot of emotional relationships there.
Mhm.
And I think we should probably make an effort to reclaim that because by just shunning any kind of male contact as gay or something, that really kind of allows people who have an agenda that want to twist the scriptures to say, look, Jesus and John, they're something going on there. It's like we shouldn't give them room to do that.
Yeah.
So, but it's not even that long ago in history that we could find in Western civilization examples of similar things. There's a famous last words of Horatio Nelson. If you've ever been to, a lot of people know Trafalgar Square, in London, there's a statue of Nelson. He was the naval hero who destroyed Napoleon's navy, so the French couldn't invade England, which was a real possibility. But he was killed in the battle in the process of doing that, or wounded seriously. And as he lay dying in the middle of the battle, he tells his flag captain, who was he's the admiral. So there's another guy who's the captain of the flagship, and his last name was Hardy, Thomas Hardy. His last words were "Kiss me, Hardy," and Hardy kissed him twice on the cheek and on the head, and his very last words to him were "God bless you, Hardy," and then Hardy went back to the battle, and it's kind of technically the last words weren't "Kiss me, Hardy," but you can even hear that quoted sometimes. You'll see that places, and it's a very similar goodbye. I think it makes me think of or David and Jonathan made me think of that. That there's this parting, they kiss, they bless each other, they appeal to God in both cases, and you can sense that it's a genuine love between the two men, a brotherly love.
It's just it's like the sad circumstances that are there in either case. David and Jonathan being forced to separate because of enmity between people, and then
Somebody
Horatio
losing,
Nelson and Hardy
losing his life,
losing each other because of battle when people just can't figure out how to get along.
So between Paul's command to greet each other with a kiss and between these examples of parting with a kiss, we could do with maybe more affection to each other as Christians, I think.
Yeah, but I think we want to get back to talking about why the kiss is related to honest words.
Yeah, and to truth.
Yeah. So Let's read another Old Testament passage, Proverbs 15:1, which says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger."
Yeah, that was another thing I thought of, right? Because the alternative to so if you did like the inverse of the saying, right?
Hmm.
If an honest answer is like a kiss on the lips, what would a dishonest answer be? Like, I guess you punch somebody, and so this one kind of is like in between that, right? It touches on both sides of that, and how a gentle answer, right, or an honest answer, or a kiss on the lips, right, would kind of calm the anger in somebody if you respond with love.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, there's plenty of examples of that in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm just thinking about Jesus and uh, the whole way his trial went and
Oh
how he
yeah.
was tested
Or
before he even
or
got to
any
that point.
basically every time he talked to the Pharisees.
Yeah, yeah. So think of how say he responded to them when they were testing him, right? And he was the one who told us to love our enemies.
Hmm.
So we're watching him as our model, right? That's our goal, right? To be as much like Jesus as we can,
Yeah.
and think about what would Jesus do? Wear a little bracelet? No, but we actually need to look at these examples, like in Matthew 5, 43 through 45.
You have heard that it was said, "Love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous.
So I mentioned earlier that we were going to talk about, telling the truth forces you to plant a kiss on somebody that you don't even like,
Mhm.
and like Jesus is talking about in this, God causes the sun to shine and the rain to fall on the good and the bad,
Mhm.
and He blesses everyone through His actions, and we're called to do the same thing. And Jesus is saying you can't just choose to be loving when you're around some people and hateful when you're around other people. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be the same all the time. Like, you're supposed to give rain, to bless people, and give sun to bless people, but you're always blessing people, and you're not differentiating between
Mhm.
the people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same principle as forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us.
Yeah.
It's like think about that for a minute, because if God were going to be conditional in His love and in His blessing, then at some point you would have forfeited it, like probably 100 times a day.
Well, we just did a whole episode on not showing partiality.
Yeah.
And then so like this one's saying don't show partiality in who you kiss. No.
Mhm.
Sorry, it's not saying that. But it is saying that don't show partiality in whether you're honest with somebody or not.
Right, but Jesus saying this to love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you is as shocking as just kissing them on the lips. Like
Yeah, yeah.
in their culture, right? Uh, they hate the Romans. They hate them, and they hate,
Hmm.
for that matter, the Greeks and the Samaritans and everybody. If you're not a Jew, they just hate you. It's like, don't you realize that's how everybody thinks
Yeah.
all the time,
But
except for God?
but when you speak truth, right, you're showering blessings on everybody around.
Yeah,
So
and it goes contrary to human nature.
they may kill you for saying it, but eventually it blesses them.
Yeah.
I mean,
And this should also, if you're familiar with Proverbs, this should remind you of a saying of Solomon. Well, not one of the sayings, but a proverb of Solomon from Proverbs 25 verses 21 through 22.
if your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you.
Right? It's like the shame and again the shock, like what Jesus is saying here. It is kind of like just kissing your enemy on the lips, if you're because it's so against. Well, our president said something about this recently when Erica Kirk said publicly that she forgave Charlie Kirk's killer, and then Trump
Yeah,
came to the mic afterwards and was like, "I can't do that. I hate my enemies."
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
That's true.
it's such a just gut thing to hate your enemies. It just
Mhm.
feels natural that there is something scandalous about loving them. And I also have, so I got a historical example in there, and now I have a literature example. This comes from Dostoevsky's book, The Brothers Karamazov, which is a great book, one of my favorites. Dostoevsky is not the easiest to read, but there's a story within the story. So one of the characters has this basically fictional tale that he's come up with, in which Christ returns to the earth in Seville, Spain, during the Inquisition. And he starts healing people and performing miracles, and the church captures him, takes him in, and the Grand Inquisitor is basically letting him have it, And he's saying, why would you come back right now? You're interfering with everything we're trying to do. And it's this fascinating study from Dostoevsky, who was a religious man. And he's kind of examining organized religion, Christian history against the gospel, against human nature. He's really juggling a lot of things here. But the Inquisitor in the story, he bases his argument against Jesus on the 3 questions that Satan asked him in the desert to tempt him. Like he says, why did you not turn the stones into bread? The devil gave you the answer right there. All of mankind would have followed you forever if you just fed them. And he goes on, talking like that. And so he says that Jesus rejected these 3 temptations in favor of freedom, but he thinks that Jesus has misjudged human nature because humans are too weak to handle freedom. Because if we're free, now we have to be responsible. Like I have to be responsible for my own actions. I have to try to be better and to as Paul says, like to continue in the good works that God prepares for us. He doesn't just kind of force us to do them. Mm-hmm. He gives us a choice, and the easy choice is always the bad one. So if we have freedom, this is harder now. and so in the story, the Inquisitor says that the devil provided the tools to end human suffering, to unite humanity, and that's what they're trying to do in their mission. So it's a bit of a cynical approach from Dostoevsky. And at the end of it, you're kind of thinking, wow, this guy, does he hate Christianity? And the ending of the story is fascinating. Jesus is silent the whole time, just like he's silent in his trials in the gospel. He says almost nothing, lets them malign him. And then he gets up after the Inquisitor has just had his way with him, and he kisses him on his lips. And then the Inquisitor doesn't know what to do, so he releases him and tells him never to return. And it's such a fascinating story on so many levels. But it does exactly what we're talking about here. Like Dostoevsky, I don't know if he read this saying. Certainly, though, he's thinking of loving your enemies.
He watched Biblocus, is what it was.
Yeah, obviously. He's in the comments right now talking about it. But yeah, I love that story. It's such a good example. And then in the story too, because again, that was a story within the story. So the character who's telling that to another character cynically, because he does kind of hate religion, he tells him all that, and he talks about human suffering, and he's like, if you could stop God from creating the world because of all the suffering that would happen, would you have done it? And he's like, or no, he says, if you had the choice to create the world, knowing all the suffering that would come with it, would you do it? And he goes, I guess I wouldn't. And he says, then why are you a Christian? And he doesn't have an answer. So he gets up, kisses him, and walks out. And the guy says, that's plagiarism. So such a good story there, and a lot of things to think about. I do recommend that book, although it's a big one. But yeah, it's an example again of kissing your enemies, of a gentle answer turning away wrath.
Well, the official Biblocus historian has spoken.
Yeah. I'm also now the official Biblocus English professor. So, or I guess Russian. That's Russian literature.
Yeah,
so.
but you got the Inquisition in there, so that counts as history too.
Yeah.
All right. So moving into another section of Proverbs, we're just covering up the book of Proverbs today. Chapter 27, verses 5 through 7 says, "Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. One who is full loathes honey from the comb, but to the hungry, even what is bitter tastes sweet.
So this is kind of the flip side of what we were just talking about, right? Because you could also sort of kiss someone to flatter them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the same thing. Because he's basically saying, he's talking about tough love, right? Like sometimes you got to tell your friend a hard truth. So again, it goes back to what we said at the beginning. It's coming down to trust.
Well, I mean, an open rebuke can be a loving thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, if
Just
you're
like the hidden love, it means you're not showing it to somebody. You're not rebuking them when they need it.
yeah, if you're watching somebody, destroy themselves and you say nothing because you're like, who am I to get in the way of his happiness? It's like, well, he's ruining his life, so maybe say something about it.
If you really care about someone and you don't tell them, then they live their life not knowing they're loved.
Yeah,
as well.
And that's what he's saying at the end. One who's full loathes honey from the comb. So basically, someone who has friends or people they can trust. If someone tries to butter them up, they're like, they don't need it. But somebody who basically doesn't have anyone they can rely on, it's kind of like attention seeking, any kind of attention, even negative attention, they'll flock to it.
Yeah.
So, but I think about that verse all the time. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. I think I try to pat myself on the back and remind myself that it's okay to be to get in trouble with my big mouth. I'm like, it's okay. I'm really their friend, and I'm wounding them with love.
I'm glad I'm your dad, not your friend.
Yeah, I have no idea where I got such a bad habit of speaking without thinking. Yeah, but I do like this verse a lot. I think that, that hidden love thing, that's kind of the key is like, so what if you love them? If you like, that goes to like faith without works.
Yeah.
Right. You're not actually doing anything, then you don't love them. You're just like, well, inside my head, I think that they're nice.
Well, that how an enemy multiplies kisses makes me think of when Pharisees and other people come to Jesus and try to test him, and they're like, "Teacher, we know you're the greatest guy on earth. And
we know you're from God.
God blesses everything you do, and all this stuff." And then it's like, why are you so bad? It's like, okay, that's a really good lead into that question.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, here's an example of Pharisees complaining about something. In Matthew 15, verses 1 through 12, it says, "Then some Pharisees and teachers of the law came to Jesus from Jerusalem and asked, 'Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? They don't wash their hands before they eat.' Jesus replied, 'And why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? For God said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is devoted to God, they are not to honor their father or mother with it. Thus you nullify the word of God for the sake of your tradition. You hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules.' Jesus called the crowd to him and said, 'Listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them.' Then the disciples came to him and asked, 'Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this?'" I wanted to specifically include that verse at the end. but I look at what Jesus did. There's an open rebuke there, right? They're out of line. They're accusing him and his disciples, right? And he's saying, look, you are literally breaking one of the 10 commandments. Have you heard of them? And it's an open rebuke. They need to hear it. If he doesn't tell them that, he's not loving them.
Yeah.
But they don't see it that way, right? Because they can't. They refuse to see it that way, so they're offended by it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of they're trying to trap Jesus. They're trying to ask him questions that he has to tell the truth to.
Yeah.
So that they can, say, wow, we got him now. If we ask him this, he'll have to say this. And, he always outsmarts them. But.
Well, he doesn't. I mean, he does tell the truth. He always tells the truth. The problem is they've forgotten what truth is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And
I mean, he's able to tell the truth. He doesn't have to answer the way they were hoping he would, and he still can tell the truth.
mhm.
So it's interesting.
So um, the issue here is that their teaching has departed from the truth. I mean, what he quotes from Isaiah there, these people honor me with their lips. I mean, your lips are what you give an answer or kiss somebody with.
Yeah.
But their hearts are far from me. So again, getting back to that idea, right, where you could kiss someone as an enemy, right? You could flatter somebody, you could say you love somebody, but it's disingenuous, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They in fact cannot give an honest answer or a loving kiss. It's all fake to them. It's all politics. It's all appearance. It's all a popularity contest.
Yeah. 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 Well, they had turned giving an honest answer into like a sideshow. Like they were always trying to trap somebody for saying the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't just Jesus. I mean, I think there was a hyper righteousness that they had, like, self-righteousness,
Yeah.
that they could, ruin anybody's day. Really. It didn't have to be Jesus. It just happened to be recorded when they did it to Jesus and they wrote the Gospels.
Right. Yeah. And they did, so they're perverting the truth that they speak with their lips, the honest answers, right? They're also going to pervert a kiss, like specifically.
Yeah.
There's probably the most famous kiss of all time, which we
yeah.
avoided mentioning so
Yeah.
far.
Well, so before we get to that, I would say though, like legalism is honesty, but not in the spirit of like the law.
Well,
like, okay, it's like legalism, the way they practiced it, it was like, oh, well, the law says this, so you have to do that. And it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It doesn't matter,
They would put extra rules around the law. It's like,
yeah,
if you can't have a 2-foot stick, then you're not even allowed to have a 1-foot stick now. Like they would make the rule intentionally more strict,
right,
just to avoid even getting close to it.
But like what Jesus points out in Matthew chapter 23, he's like, you guys would go into your garden and tithe mint and dill and cumin, and then you would say, well, that's why I can't come help you with some problem you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm following the law. Well,
he says you strain out a gnat, but you swallow a camel.
Yeah, that's why they were being literal. That's not the same as being honest.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think the biggest problem there is like where I thought you were going to go with that when you said legalism is honesty to a point.
Mm-hmm.
You're forgetting to admit the fact that nobody can keep it.
Yes.
To an extreme. What are we going to do about that problem?
It's to an extreme. And like Jesus says in Matthew 23, like you should have, practiced justice, mercy, and faithfulness, and also kept these tithing laws.
Yeah.
But the more important thing was the justice, mercy, and faithfulness that you show to other people.
Yeah, and that's why in the parable of the Good Samaritan, the two people who pass him up are a Pharisee and a Levite.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like on the way to the temple, I'm going about God's business. I'm on the way to church. I can't pull over and help the guy whose car broke down on the side of the road.
If he happens to be dead, if they're in the presence of a dead body, then they can't.
Well, even if he's bleeding,
if they get it on them. But if he's actually dead and they're in his presence, then they're like stuck and they can't go do what they wanted to do.
Be ceremonially.
So it's like very legalistic thing. But I mean, it would have been better to help the guy, in the chance that he is still alive. Maybe I can save him. That's not the consideration. It's, well, maybe he's dead, and then I won't be able to go to temple. Yeah. So it's
they're gonna go. They're gonna stand before God's throne and be like, "What's all this blood on my hands? I never touched blood." It's like, yeah I know. That was the problem. That's technically a fictional story, but
they were about to have blood on their hands.
Oh yeah.
When anyway.
Well, so speaking of which, Matthew 26 verses 47 through 49.
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, suddenly arrived. A large mob with swords and clubs was with him from the chief priests and elders of the people. His betrayer had given them a sign. The one I kiss, he's the one, arrest him. So he went right up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him.
So we have this dichotomy presented to us in the Gospels, right? Which is so clear when you read it, that between comparing Jesus with Judas and the Pharisees here, right? Jesus's words or Jesus's mouth has been used to speak truth and love, right? Uh, to give honest answers and loving kisses, so to speak. Judas is here giving a very false kiss, and the Pharisees are always trying to promote falsehood or trap Jesus, who's the one speaking truth. And who would we rather emulate? And it seems really obvious when you read it, but I think, like we were saying earlier, about how naturally it comes to us as humans not to do this.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, we want to hate our enemies because duh. Like, so in your day-to-day life, you have to pay attention to the small things. Just that guy at work that you don't like,
Yeah. Well, when you said who would you rather emulate, that's why we wear WWJD bracelets and not WWTD bracelets for what would Trump do.
Yeah.
When he comes out with the winners like that.
How do we know if it's what would Jesus do or what would Judas do?
Oh, well, I'll let you figure that part out. So.
Yeah, I think that it's really easy to fall short on this in our day-to-day lives just because just the smallest things, just the way that people get on our nerves and we just want to, we want to avoid them or we want to get back at them in small ways. And it's just, Jesus talks about with the example of hatred and adultery, that what you're doing in your heart, nobody can see. You're not technically committing that, but you're allowing that sin into your heart still.
Yeah. Well, and your mouth is a creation of God. It's like so many other things that we have in life. Well, it's all gifts from God, and it's how you use them, right? Is whether you return them back to God as a blessing, and a thankfulness to Him for all the good things He provides. And so many times we don't. We abuse things, and in the case of our mouths, we use them the wrong way all the time. We don't tell people the truth, or we don't speak a word of rebuke that they need, or we use our words or someone else's words to trap them and make them look foolish and deride them. So we need to get back into the habit of using our mouths the way the Creator used His mouth, and to bless other people with it.
Yeah, we got to follow His example.
Kiss them on the lips, so to speak, by blessing them.
Well, so we can go into our takeaway with that,
Yeah,
I think.
the wise words takeaway.
Yeah. Let your mouth be a source of love and truth. And I can't think of a better way to sum up our takeaway or give us even a verse that is close to that than Psalm 19:14, the way that the 19th Psalm ends. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. And that's from the KJV, obviously.
Until you read that, I didn't even think of this, but I heard that Jimmy Cliff passed away.
Oh yeah,
the reggae artist, and he has that
because
song.
Of that song, yeah.
Yeah, he has that song,
the Rivers of Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he sings that. If you ever want to listen to, some reggae and some Bible at the same time, you can check that out. But anyway, so yeah, rest in peace to his family.
Recommend somebody.
Condolences.
Yeah. I do like Jimmy Cliff's music, and that is sad to hear that he's passed away. I'll recommend somebody who's maybe a little more on stable ground in faith, as far as faith is considered. Malcolm Guite, who I'm sure I've quoted on here before. He's an Anglican priest and a poet and a blues guitarist. He has a podcast which has some good stuff on there, including some of his sermons. And he opens every sermon with that verse, except he says, "Let the words of my mouth, as the preacher, and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight." I think that's a really cool way to open a sermon.
Yeah, it's nice. All right.
So we frequently remind you that confession means to say with, right? And that's exactly what you were saying. We want to follow Christ's example here. If we say the things that He says, we respond the way that He responds, then we're following the advice of this saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's Caleb and I'm Timothy, and thank you for listening to Bible Discussions on Biblocus, where the Bible intersects with your life. Please consider subscribing to our channel to help support our efforts. All scripture quotations, unless otherwise indicated, are taken from the Holy Bible, New International Version, NIV, copyright by Biblica Inc., used by permission of Zondervan, all rights reserved. Biblocus is a registered trademark. This program is copyright 2025 by Timothy Klingerman. God bless all of you.